The sun burned low over the plains, spilling gold across the Carter ranch. Dust shimmered in the light, curling around the boots of tired men and the weathered planks of the porch. Clara Whitmore shifted her grip on the heavy log digging into her shoulder. Her breath came in sharp gasps, her arms trembling, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Every splinter that bit her palms reminded her what failure cost. Behind her, laughter echoed, rough, mocking male. 3 ranch hands leaned against the fence, smirking as they watched her struggle. "Ain't right. A lady hauling timber like that," one of them drawled. Clara ignored them. She had long learned that pride weighed less than hunger. When she reached the stack, she lowered the log with a grunt, sweat dripping down her neck. Then she felt it, the heavy, unflinching gaze from the porch. Elias Carter stood there, arms crossed, face calm but unreadable. The boss of the ranch. The man who'd taken her in when no one else would. The man who made her work harder than any hired hand. "Good," Elias said finally, his voice even and deep. "Now fetch another." Clara's jaw tightened. She wanted to speak and to tell him she wasn't made of iron. But all she said was, "Yes, Mr. Carter." He nodded once, then turned back toward the house, leaving her in the golden dust. The laughter from the fence picked up again, but she didn't flinch. Her pride was the only thing she owned, and she guarded it like a treasure. It had been months since she arrived, alone, broke, and desperate. Her father's debts had taken everything. She'd lost her wagon, her mule, her dignity, and nearly her life before Elias found her by the riverbank. "You got nowhere to go?" he'd asked. "I can work," she'd rasped. "I'll earn my keep." He'd studied her for a long moment, then said, "Then you'd better be ready to prove it." And she had. Every single day. The sun slid lower, painting long shadows across the yard. When she dropped her last log, Elias had returned to the porch, arms folded, watching again. "Why do you push her so hard, boss?" one of the men called out. Elias's gaze swept toward them, cold, sharp. "Because she's the only one who doesn't quit when it gets hard." The men went silent. Clara froze, unsure if that was praise or another test. "That'll do," Elias said finally. "Go wash up. Supper's soon." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Don't think I don't see the fire in you, Miss Whitmore. Just make sure you're aiming it in the right direction." She didn't reply. But deep down something stirred, a spark that hadn't burned in a long time. That night the ranch house glowed with lamplight and the smell of stew. Clara ate quietly at the end of the table while the men boasted and laughed. Elias sat at the head, silent, his eyes unreadable as always. After supper, when the others left for the bunkhouse, Elias spoke without turning. "You carry yourself like someone who's got something to prove." "Maybe I do," Clara said. "And what's that?" "That I belong somewhere. That I'm not just another burden." Elias looked at her, really looked at her. "You've got more grit than most men I've hired. Keep it up, and you might just convince me." Then he left the room, boots echoing down the hall. Clara sat alone, staring at the flickering lamplight. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a ghost. She felt seen. The next morning, before the rooster crowed, Clara was already up, tying her braid tight against the cold dawn breeze. When she stepped outside, she saw him again, Elias, splitting wood with measured strength. "You're up early," she said. "So are you," he replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "Didn't peg you for a man who starts before sunrise." He smiled faintly. "The land doesn't wait, Miss Whitmore. Neither should we." "Then let me help." He hesitated, then nodded. "Stack the smaller ones near the shed, and watch your footing." They worked side by side in silence. No words, just rhythm. The sound of effort and breath and trust building quietly between them. After a while, Elias spoke softly. "You're stronger than you look." Clara smirked. "I've had practice carrying more than wood." He glanced at her, eyes unreadable, and went back to chopping. But his swing seemed slower, gentler. By noon, the ranch was bustling. Clara hauled another armload past the men, their whispers following her. Dalton, a big ranch hand with a temper, muttered to another, "He's gone soft," letting her play cowboy like she belongs here. Clara heard him but didn't react. Yet she felt the sting. Elias called out from the porch, "Fence out west is down. You'll come with me." Her heart skipped. "Me? You've earned the right to see more than the yard." And for the first time she smiled without hiding it. They rode out together, wind tugging at her braid, the prairie stretching endless and wild before them. When they reached the broken fence, They worked side by side, digging, lifting, repairing. Elias handed her a canteen. You work like you're running from something. Clara drank deeply. Maybe I am. My father used to say the only way to silence a hard past is to work it into the ground. Elias nodded slowly. He taught you to survive. I taught myself to live. He paused, studying her face. You remind me of my sister, he said quietly. Same fire, same stubbornness. But this land took her. Clara's hands froze. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just promise me it won't take you too. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the silence between them said more than any words could. By the time they rode back, storm clouds had gathered. Lightning split the sky and rain fell hard. Clara's horse spooked, but she held firm, pushing through the wind and mud. When they finally reached the ranch, both were soaked, breathless. Elias jumped down to help her, but she waved him off. I've got it. He smiled faintly. You always do. They stood in the rain, eyes locked, thunder rolling above them. Get inside before you catch your death, he said. Clara turned toward the porch, then looked back. You said your sister thought she could take on the world. Maybe she just needed someone to believe she could. Elias's voice softened. Maybe now I do. That night, as rain drummed on the roof, neither slept. Clara lay awake replaying his words. And in his room, Elias stood by the window, thinking of the woman who'd carried more than wood that day. She'd carried the weight of every doubt and refused to fall. In the silence of that storm, something changed. Respect had grown roots. And maybe, just maybe, so had something more. A story of strength, redemption, and the courage to stand tall when the world tries to break you. If you felt her struggle, if her strength inspired you, then hit that like button and subscribe. Don't miss the next chapter, where loyalty, jealousy, and love collide on the open range. Comment below. Would you have the strength Clara showed? Subscribe now for more emotional, cinematic Western stories that touch the heart and honor the spirit of resilience.